Listen to me. You want to know about luck? You want to know about fate? Sit down. Let me tell you about the day the sky tried to warn us, and we were too deaf from the rotor wash to listen. There's a smell to a bad day. I don't mean the literal stink of the latrines or the burning diesel of the base camp. I mean a taste in the air. Metallic, like sucking on a penny. It was November 1968, the Central Highlands. We were flying Hueys, slicks, ferrying grunts into the meat grinder and hauling the broken ones back out. My bird was the Iron Butterfly, a UH-1 that had taken more hits than a heavyweight boxer and was just as ugly. I was the crew chief. My job was to keep the bird flying and the M60 machine guns singing. That morning, I woke up with a headache that felt like a sniper had taken residence behind my left eye. That was the first thing. Not a sign, maybe, just dehydration. But then I went to my locker. I had this little plastic figure, a hula girl, glued to the top of my helmet, my K-pot. She'd been there for 6 months.
Through monsoons, through hot LZs, through rocket attacks. That morning, for no reason, her head had snapped off, just sitting there in the locker. Clean break. I stared at it. It's the little things that get under your skin in a war. You start looking for patterns in the chaos. I glued her head back on, but the glue wouldn't hold. I tossed it in the trash. That was sign number 1. We walked out to the flight line at 0600. The mist was clinging to the ground, that thick white soup that swallows sound. Usually, the flight line is a cacophony of shouting, wrenches turning, and engines coughing to life. That morning, silence. Dead silence. Even the insects weren't humming. It felt like walking into a funeral parlor. My pilot was a warrant officer we called Preacher because he never cursed, not once. We got to the bird, and I started my pre-flight checks. I'm climbing up the side, checking the rotor hub, the Jesus nut, that one nut that holds the rotors to the mast, the only thing keeping you from dropping like a stone. I saw a bird.
A real bird, a sparrow or something, dead on the transmission deck. It hadn't been hit by the rotors. It had just died there, curled up. I flicked it off with a rag. My gut did a slow roll. "Everything green, Chief?" Preacher asked me as he climbed into the right seat. "Green," I lied. "Just a little grime." Sign number 2. We cranked up. The turbine whined, that high-pitched scream that drilled into your teeth. The rotors began to turn, sluggish at first, then blurring into that rhythmic thwop, thwop, thwop that defines the war. We were part of a flight of 4, heading out to a sector near the Cambodian border, an insertion. We were carrying a squad of fresh grunts, kids whose boots were still black and shiny. As we lifted off, the Iron Butterfly shuddered. Not the usual vibration. This was different. A lateral kick, just for a second, like the bird had tripped.
I checked the gauges. Green. I checked the hydraulic pressure. Green. Preacher didn't say anything, but I saw him tap the cyclic stick, frowning. "You feel that?" I asked over the intercom. "Turbulence," Preacher said, but the air was still. There was no wind. We formed up and headed west. The jungle below was an endless carpet of green, broken only by the brown scars of bomb craters. Usually, the flight out is the easy part. You smoke a cigarette, you watch the tree line, you joke over the comms. Not today. The radio was full of static.
Not the usual chatter, but a rhythmic clicking. Click, click, click. 3 beats. Silence. 3 beats. It wasn't Morse code. It was just interference. But it synced up perfectly with my heartbeat. We were 20 minutes out, flying at 2,000 feet. I looked back at the grunts in the cargo bay. They were terrified, knees bouncing, gripping their rifles. One kid, a machine gunner, caught my eye. He was staring at my M60. He pointed at the ammo belt. I looked down. The belt was twisted. If I had tried to fire,
The gun would have jammed instantly. I've loaded that gun 1,000 times. I could do it blindfolded. I never twist the belt. I fixed it, sweat breaking out on my forehead under the heavy helmet. If he hadn't pointed that out, sign number 3. The feeling of dread was so heavy now, it felt like G-force pressing me into the nylon seat. I wanted to key the mic. I wanted to scream at Preacher to turn around. The bird is cursed today. The air is wrong. The signs are all bad. But you don't do that. You're a soldier.
You do the job. LZ coming up, Preacher's voice crackled. LZ X-ray, pop smoke. We dropped altitude, the stomach-churning descent. The tree line rushed up to meet us. Purple smoke billowed from the clearing, marking the landing zone. Flight, this is lead. Going in hot. Suppressive fire on the tree line. I swung the M60 out on its bungee cord.
I squeezed the butterfly triggers. The gun roared, spitting brass casings onto the floor. We swept over the trees, tracers chewing up the foliage. We flared for landing. The nose pitched up, the speed bled off. We hovered 3 feet off the elephant grass. Get out, go, 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 I screamed at the grunts. They piled out, diving into the grass. We were light now. Pulling pitch, Preacher said. We lifted. We turned to bank away, and then it happened. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a monster. It was physics and bad timing. A single round.
I didn't even hear the shot. It must have been a lucky shot from a sniper in the trees, or maybe just a stray bullet from a spray of AK-47 fire. It didn't hit the engine. It didn't hit the crew. It hit the tail rotor drive shaft cover. I heard a ping, like a pebble hitting a tin can. Then a screech, metal on metal. The sound of a gearbox eating itself. Losing tail rotor authority, Preacher yelled. His voice wasn't calm anymore. The world started to spin. When you lose the tail rotor, the torque of the main rotor spins the fuselage in the opposite direction. The iron butterfly whipped to the right. The centrifugal force slammed me back against the bulkhead. The horizon became a blur of green and blue. Mayday! Mayday! Bird 4 is going down! We were only at 200 feet. That's the dead man zone. Too low to fully auto-rotate, too high to survive the drop without help. The spinning accelerated. I saw the trees whipping past. I saw the sky. I saw the ground. Sky. Ground. Sky. Ground.
Chop the throttle, I screamed, though I knew Preacher was already doing it. Killing the engine is the only way to stop the torque spin. The engine wound down, the scream of the turbine dying. The spinning slowed, but we were falling. Fast. We were a brick with a propeller. I curled into a ball. I grabbed the monkey strap near the door. I remembered the hula girl with the broken head. I remembered the dead bird. I remembered the twisted ammo belt. This is it, I thought. The signs were right. We're dead. We hit the canopy.
The sound was deafening, branches snapping like gunshots. The plexiglass windshield shattered, showering the cockpit with diamonds. The main rotor blades struck a massive teak tree, shattering into shrapnel that tore through the fuselage. The bird groaned, buckled, and flipped onto its side. Then, impact. The world went black. Not a fade-out, a hard cut. I woke up to the smell of dirt and high-octane fuel.
My ears were ringing so loud I thought I was underwater. I was hanging sideways, held in by my gunner's belt. The bird was on its side, crushed against the base of a tree. The engine was ticking as it cooled. Tick, tick, tick. Just like the static on the radio. I unbuckled and fell into the mud. Preacher? I crawled forward. The cockpit was a mess of smashed instruments and leaves. Preacher was slumped over the cyclic. I reached for him, my hand shaking. He groaned. He moved. I'm okay, he wheezed, legs pinned.
But I'm okay. We were alive.
I scrambled out the cargo door. The tail boom was gone, snapped off. The main rotor mast was bent at a 90-degree angle. We had fallen through 3 layers of canopy, and the trees had acted like a giant net, slowing us down just enough to keep us from turning into pink mist.